What's up, everybody? It is time for my next vlog, and this one is going to be just right now for Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6, the finale episode of the series. And I must say that I am extremely disappointed in it. The only thing I can compare my feeling that I have right now is to how I imagine everyone that watched Lost, how they felt when they got to the end, and felt like it was all just destroyed. That's how this one went down. There was just a lot of clumsily put together crap to sum up one of the greatest series that's ever been on TV. Well thought out plot lines for 7 seasons, and then we get to season 8. They have 19 months in between season 7 and season 8 in which to make an epic 6 episodes that are longer in length than any of the previous seasons. And this is what we come away with. So there's not much to really say other than, obviously, this is a spoiler alert for any of you who are still trying to watch it but haven't yet. There is basically Jon Snow kills Daenerys, which was like the only somewhat plot twist, kind of cool part of the episode. He needed to do it. She had gone crazy in the previous episode and literally burned everyone in the city, like innocent women and children, just scorched them all. And so since that happened, Jon Snow finally owned up to what he knew he needed to do, and he hugged her and said, "You'll always be my queen, I love you," and then he knifed her. So that was necessary. What was not necessary was after that, how suddenly, basically the next scene that we have is Tyrion getting released from bondage, from being held captive because he also betrayed Daenerys, and he was being held prisoner. But the next scene, we see him being released and going to stand in front of the council of basically the rest of the main characters. So you got Lady Brienne, you got Sansa, you've got the dude from the Reach, the old guy, and you've got the kid that is the king that was breastfeeding off of his mother for far too long before finally getting taught how to sword fight and do manly things. You've got Edwin Tully from the Reach. You've got I think Bronn might have been there. Bronn might have, no, he wasn't even in that one. Lady Brienne. Anyways, and Bran. You got them all there. They are all standing present. They bring Tyrion out. Grey Worm brings Tyrion out. And the reason why Jon Snow is not present is because Jon Snow is being held prisoner by Grey Worm because Jon Snow killed their queen, and so he wants justice. And so then Tyrion decides, or they ask Tyrion's opinion on what he thinks should be done, and of course Grey Worm yells at him and says, "Nobody wants to hear what you have to say." Even though they all summoned him out there, so obviously they all wanted to hear what he had to say. Grey Worm was just still in his fit from his woman getting her head chopped off in episode 4. So, of course, he's going to be a little bit touchy about that whole situation. Anyways, they just randomly, they ask Tyrion what he thinks, and as if Jon Snow, since he's prisoner of Grey Worm, so suddenly Jon Snow is apparently not in the running anymore to be king. So they're just randomly, well, who should be king then? They don't even hardly talk about Jon Snow after Grey Worm says, "He's my prisoner." that's basically, okay, well, I guess that sums that up, even though we've had 8 seasons of Jon Snow being the man, and now all of a sudden, well, I guess that's all done. Well, we got to figure out somebody else to be the king of the entire free world of Westeros. So, who do they decide to choose? They decide to choose Bran. Now, a lot of people that I've read online, they don't like that Bran got chosen. And all that I can say is I don't have a problem with Bran getting chosen. It actually makes perfect sense to me that Bran gets chosen. Bran is the three-eyed raven, which means that he has all of the memories of the past and of the present moment. He's able to see basically anything that he wants to see. So you've essentially got a kid that's like on wizard level of knowledge and understanding of the world and of the universe beyond what even Jon Snow would be able to have, even though Jon Snow, everybody loved him. So Bran is not a problem for me to be the king. My biggest problem is the way that they tied all of it up. So Jon Snow's punishment for killing Daenerys, according to Grey Worm, because he wanted justice for Jon Snow, was they decided to send Jon Snow back to the Night's Watch to be at Castle Black. And that's where he's going to serve a life sentence. And so the end of the show comes, and he's literally there going back to Castle Black. And we're all watching him go in there, and then he goes out through the wall back into the woods with that awesome red-haired dude that wanted Lady Brienne. They go walking, and that's basically it. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, are you serious? You're going to let Jon Snow, at the word of Grey Worm, who up until this very moment has always just been an Unsullied who follows orders, because that's what he is. He's an Unsullied soldier. And suddenly, magically, because Daenerys, at the beginning of this episode, calls him her Minister of War. Like, she appoints him that. So suddenly, that means that Grey Worm gets to, once she's gone, that suddenly he's got power enough to say to all of the rest of the leaders in Westeros, in their world, not even his, that because he doesn't like that Daenerys got killed by him, by Jon Snow, that he has to serve a life term at Castle Black, which is obsolete. There is literally no need for Castle Black. There is no need for the Wall anymore. Last I saw in episode 3, the Night King is dead. All of the White Walkers are gone. They didn't even address that. Jon said something about it. He's like, well, what am I going to do up at the Night's Watch, up at the Wall? And Tyrion says to him, well, there's always going to be a place for bastards and for broken people. Okay. All right. So he's going to go up there, and what are they going to do? They don't even show what they're going to do. All that it shows is them on their horses or walking as a large group past the wall into the forest. And we don't know what in the world they're going to do. We don't know what purpose they serve. It is obsolete. And that's just... they ended on that. So we're letting Grey Worm, who, by the way, once they send Jon Snow up to the Wall, or even before he's left for the Wall, as everybody's going their own separate ways, you've got Grey Worm saying to his right-hand dude, all right, we're sailing for some isle, some place where there's not even in Westeros anymore. We got ourselves an accident here. I'm gonna just see what's going on here. Give you guys it's kind of exciting. I see that stuff all the time for my job. And so, I catch it. Live action news. Darren Keim. Dallas, Texas. So, anyways, Grey Worm suddenly, of all people, basically had the most power of everyone in Westeros to tell Jon Snow, the rightful heir, the Targaryen, that he needs to go and serve out a life sentence at the Night's Watch. And Everyone else listened to him. This is just ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, again, allow me to write for your show. I will save you all kinds of heartache. HBO, David Weiss, DB, whatever your name is. You guys need to listen to me. Here's a simple fix. I understand you've got 6 episodes and you've got to cram in a ton of stuff because you guys are too stupid to extend it to maybe 7 or 8 episodes so things don't feel rushed, because they definitely felt rushed. I understand though, this is what you're doing. You're going with 6 episodes. Very simple solution. Jon Snow kills Daenerys as filmed already. Next scene, Drogon comes up and obviously is angry that his queen is dead. However, Drogon is also aware of the Targaryen connection. So therefore, Drogon knows that Jon Snow is a Targaryen. All that Jon Snow and Drogon need to know is that, okay, this Targaryen is no longer available, has exited the premises. Make Drogon have some act of rage just like he did. He melts the Iron Throne. He throws his dragon tantrum just like he did. But then he faces off with Jon, stares him down one last time, and it's on the verge of what's the dragon gonna do. And the dragon, in a seething kind of like, I'm about ready to fry you, but no, I'm thinking about it. And what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna lower my wing. I'm tipping my wing to you because I recognize, even though I loved Daenerys, you are also Targaryen and we have a connection. And I see that you are now the ruler. It's always been you. He tips the wing. Jon Snow jumps on board of Drogon and then immediately flies. Okay, there's my exit. Immediately flies to where the Northmen are camped all around King's Landing, because there's a whole ton of them that are there. And they then go and they say, this is what's happening. He stands up in front. He can go and perch Drogon on the very steps where Daenerys had been in front of the Unsullied and the Dothraki. They're the ones that are going to have the problem with the fact that Daenerys died the most. All the Northmen are going to be on board with Jon Snow, and I would be willing to argue that even some of the Dothraki and the Unsullied still would agree, or at least understand, that Jon Snow should be the heir, even though he did what he did to their queen. And even more so, they will be convinced when he's sitting atop Drogon and he says to them, hey, you guys, sorry, this is how it went down. We cannot stand for what happened to this city. I am Targaryen. I am of the bloodline. I am a rightful heir to the throne. You guys are foreigners. You guys are not even from this land. If you don't want to stay because you are angry, you are free to leave. You are free to go, or you can stay. Either way. But I am in charge now, and as you can see, look at the dragon. The dragon and I are proving my rightful standing before everyone here. And so they could even have it be like, you could leave tensions still high between the Unsullied and the Dothraki versus Jon Snow. And they could be saying, okay, well, maybe one day they're going to come back. It's something that you could leave some intrigue on, and kind of an untied little loose end to the story. But then they could have still had Bran. They could have still had Bran be the king, because Jon Snow has been saying the whole time, he says, I don't want to be king. I've never wanted to be. So the moment then, once he's quelled the little uprising or anger that would have been risen amongst the Unsullied and the Dothraki, once he tamps that on down, he goes and he flies his dragon back into where that council is, and he says, I don't want this. And who should we choose instead? They all decide on Bran for obvious reasons. So Bran becomes the king. And Jon Snow, he could even go back to the Night's Watch, to the obsolete Night's Watch if he wanted to. He could do that. But it would have tied up everything. Let me write for you guys, HBO. These are obvious fixes. Obvious fixes. So, all right, with that being said, I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like the way that they did it, the way that they ended everything up, it felt clumsy, and it felt like we waited to see all of that intrigue. We watched Jon Snow be raised from the dead after being stabbed in the heart. We watch Daenerys go through this crazy transformation in the last season to become somebody completely different, and then she ends up dying anyways. And so we just randomly have Tyrion, who is a prisoner that Grey Worm isn't wanting to allow him to speak, but will allow him to. But Grey Worm doesn't want Jon Snow to speak because he's their prisoner. And so everyone listens to him. And then they decide on Bran randomly to be the king. And Sansa decides, no, I'm going to be the Queen of the North. And they just all go their separate ways. And that's the great grand finale of all of the intrigue, all of the suspense, all of the crazy things that have been happening over the last 8 seasons. And this is how you're going to wrap it all up. It was very poorly put together. The loose ends were tied in a hurried mess. They were like saying, okay, we've got through episode 5. What are we going to do now? Well, hey, we don't have much time. We've got to make something happen. Okay, quick. It's like when you're moving out of a house and you don't have time to pack things up in the correct boxes. You're tossing everything in everywhere, and everything must go sale type of a thing, where just get it on board, get it into the truck, get that truck moving because this truck is leaving, and it's done. They did not take good care to end this in a clever fashion whatsoever. And there's a lot of people that are going to be ticked about it. Those are my thoughts. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be releasing another vlog this week talking about, this week I'm going to talk about how there are 2 sides to every coin, 2 sides to every story, and how one person can look at life in a completely negative light and another person can look at the same life in a positive one. I've touched on this in previous vlogs. I'm going to expand on it a little bit more. So feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be friends with me on Facebook. Like my page, Believe You Me. I look forward to seeing you guys again in the near future. Bye.